Hello, welcome. In our last class, Module 7, Element Interactivity, we learned about the before and after. That's an introduction to that. We learned about the hash link, otherwise known as the anchor link. And we did some assignments, which you guys performed pretty well. So in Module 8, we're going to learn about the user experience elements styling, which is very important. This is the core base of design interface, okay? This is relativity to the user interface. So the experience is actually the function and the interface is what the function looks like. I hope you get the point. So in this module, we'll be learning about the image element, the text element, which is typography. We are going to learn about the button and icon elements. We are going to learn the link mapping. So these are the four basic or four major courses we are going to do inside of this particular module. Now, bear in mind that typography is not course. It's not a course on typography. We are gonna give you a full course on typography, but this is the basics to get you up and running, okay, so that when we get into building up some elements, you can try out some things. I'll give you a core basic, full introduction to typography and also iconography. We are going to deal with all of that. Just follow through, okay? So for today, we are going to learn about the image element, and I'm going to explain everything you need to understand about the image element, where to use, how to use, and the placements and its functions. Okay, now to start with, I like to make it very clear. Let's just start with understanding where the image element functions, and we are going to check out a few examples from the previous websites we have built, so I can show you use cases where the image element is going to shine. Now, it's very important to note, you don't just place images anywhere you want on the website. When there are too many images on the website, it's going to slow down the website. And two, you're going to note there is what's called the image optimization. If you don't optimize your image, it's going to slow down your website speed. We are going to talk about all of this, possibly in this course, or image optimization in another lecture. But for today, I'm going to give you a brief of it. And I have actually created a course on image optimization. So I'll be linking that below the description of this particular course, okay? This particular image lecture, I'll be linking that below this video. So when you're done with this, you can go through that particular course. You are going to learn how to properly optimize your images and everything you need to understand. But for this, we are going to give it a little bit of short on optimization. Now let's check out some instances or some use cases where images shine in your website. So number one example is a portfolio sample. So this portfolio sample, you can use it to display your client's projects and how it's looking, kind of projects or services they actually offer. As you can see, this is my web design page. You see, we have all websites visually present so people can understand what this website look like. It's not enough to just place in the name and a little description and a link to visiting. So you got to show what this actually look like, what this interface look like, okay? Now, like I said before, it is not all services that you prepare image concept or image visual representation of that particular service. But this is a portfolio sample, and this is very necessary because people need to see what they are looking at or looking at seeing before they can actually get into see it. The next option you see here is this image auto slide. We call this the marquee. So the marquee is a kind of slide that doesn't have anything to do with interaction. You can't interact with this. You just allow it flow. We have a text marquee too. So which means you don't have an option to, go back to the previous slide. It just keeps sliding automatically like this, okay? So this is totally different from the slider or the carousel. We are going to talk about all of this, and we are going to learn all of this in our future lectures. So now we have this particular sample. It actually displays the concepts of those websites. So kind of a full layout or a screenshot of those variations. So these websites, all websites or most of the websites or most preferred websites that we choose, we can sample them like so. This is a kind of carousel that displays to show clients this and this are what we can do. So this is also included or inclusive in the portfolio concept. That is two sample or two states where you can use images in portfolio websites. Now in this other one, we use it in the hero section. Now this is a PNG image, not like the one we just saw now. The one we just saw now is a JPG image. I'm going to teach you guys the difference between a PNG and a JPG image before the end of this course, okay? And how to use it and the effect they have on your website. Now follow very closely. As we have here, this JPG image have the ability to shine even though it have a space that is covering that particular ratio. What I mean by this is every image have what we call an AR, which is called the aspect ratio. An aspect ratio means the space an image cover, whether they are visible or not. Now, there are spaces this image cover, but they are invisible because these images are actually images without background, saved as .png. We have two main formats for web design. We have JPG and we have PNG for images, okay? JPG are images like so, images that have age-to-age background. You see background at all ages. But PNG are images that doesn't have an age. As you can see from here, this you can't tell what particular point this image starts and where the point the image ends. All we can see is we can see through the image to see the background from there. I'm going to give you another core example of this when we're doing a little bit of practical. So now this PNG is used to display content very seamlessly, making things look very slicky and nice to the eyes. We are going to learn about that in a little while. Now this one is also a JPG. This is a services section or about us section. You can use it to display kind of features or objectives of the website. As you can see, it was used over here. So you can creativity, you can plug in an image relating to creativity, data-driven, plug in an image relating to data-driven collaboration, you plug in an image relating to collaboration. Now, in our image optimization video, which I'll be dropping the link below this, I explained very vividly why it's important to use images of the same size, height on our on layouts like this, okay? And I'm going to explain that again today, but let's just continue. This is the third instance where you can use images on services. And the final one I have for us today is images on products. So this is for e-commerce websites in cases, but this is a PNG image. As you can see, when we hover there, we have a white background, which this image doesn't have any background around it. When we hover on it, the background changes to green and it doesn't affect, the image doesn't affect or seeing through that background. I hope you get the point. That is what a PNG image is. So we have these four instances, one of which is where we can use on a portfolio. Second is when we can use on our hero section or any part of the website, maybe a storyline in a section in a website. The third one is where we can use on our services section or about us section or objective section. And final one we can use on product or even products like so. Let's scroll up. Let's see products like so, okay? We can also use our images on products like so. So these are the main instances where you can use images. I just want to bring that to light, make it very clear for us to understand before we jump into the rest of the things. So now we've understand cases where images can be used. Let's learn how to use the image elements in Oxygen Builder, okay? Now, number one, we can use image inside of a section, which is most prioritized if you're actually wanting to have an image full width in the website while having content overlay on that particular section. I'm going to show you what that means. So we click on this section to add an image element. All you need to do is to click on the advanced, okay? When you click on the section, if you're adding it on a div, we are going to come to that anyway. If you're adding on a div, select the div, then do the same thing. If you're adding this on a section, we select the section. Or if you can't find the section, you can click the structure panel and click on the section itself. As you can see, we are actually clicking on the div. So which means there's a div that is inside of this section. And we don't want that. So we are going to clear out that div. Let's delete the div. We only want the inner section, okay? I think that's even the inner section we added. So is this div we want to delete? So let's delete the second div. We have only one div. Perfect. So now we have the inner section and we have the div. Inner section is not a section. It's not a container. Inner section means all parts of that website page. A website page contains multiple sections. You can see the hero section, about us, contact us, frequently asked question, and so on and so forth. But the header and the footer is not included. Those are excluded. The header and footer are just the outer section. The header and the footer. Now, the inner section, how you can find it is when you delete a section that is existing, you can find something like this. You see, click add to add an element to this area, which means there is no element here. So now we added a section and we have this. This is what inner section is. Okay. So now we click on the div and we want to add an image to the background. We want image to full everywhere. Remember this div we added, we made it full width, 100% height and 100% width. To add image here, what we need to do is to click on the advanced, click on the background, and you can see this little button here which says browse. You can click on that, then we can select on the image which we want to use. For this case, let's use this one, and we click on select. So now as click on select, the image have been added. Let's cancel this. I will advise whenever you're designing, you may need to cancel out your structure area so you see the full width of what you are editing, except in cases where you need it. So now we added the image in the background. As you can see, the image is full width. Now we can continue our design. Now, why this is important if you actually want an image in full width is that we can now add elements inside of this same section without affecting it. So we can now add the image. Let's add the button. The button will be there. Let's just center everything so we see what we are doing. Okay, we added the button. Let's add another div. See the div there. Let's add anything we add from here will automatically, we add the icon appears there, and so on. I hope you get the point. Icon's supposed to be white color so you guys can see what's going on. Fine. I hope you get the point. So this is what it feels like when you add an image to the background. But look at what's going to happen if you try to add an image to a div or a container by adding the image elements. Now, adding an image to a container is not the same thing as adding an image element. Adding an image element in this section simply means we already have the section and we click on option and we add an image element. As you can see from here, we click and we add the image element. This is the image element. So we can now say what size we want for the image, and we can then add our image from browsing. This is the image element. It's separate from the background itself. So this one background is the one we can add to any section. For instance, we created a div. Okay, instead of adding an image element, which we could simply get to this plus icon and click on image element and add it here. Instead of doing that, we select on the div and head over to advanced. Select on the div, head over to advanced and click on background. Then we click on browse and we add our image itself, not the element anyway. So we have that image in that particular div. I hope you get that. Now let me make it very simple and straightforward. Let me make you understand what is going on here, because you might be asking, why then do we need this if we can actually use this? Why then do we need the image element if we can actually add an image to a section or a container without the image element? Now look very closely. So we are going to delete an image. You simply click on the background where it is, double click on the link. Let me zoom closely. Double click on the link or select all the link from there, then click on delete. It will automatically delete that particular image. So all images are not practically images, so they don't slow down your website. Oxygen make images links so that it is now easy for the website to load, faster for the website to load, since it's just a link. Now, look very closely. If we add an image element, remember we added an image in the background. We are going to add an image element this time. So we click to add image element and we select our image by clicking on browse, and we select our image and we populate the image. Now this image may be full width. As you can see, it's also full width. It may be small depending on the size of the image. This we talk about in optimization. Now this image is full width as the other one we have. But look at the problem we are going to face here. When we try to add a div in the center of this place, look what happened. The div goes under that particular area. When we try to add a button, the button goes under that particular area. I hope you are getting what is going on now. Now, what is actually happening is that we have this image as an element, not in a background. If we have it in a background, we are giving that particular section an opportunity to harbor more elements inside it. But as long as it have an image, it can have more elements inside it. It's not possible. Okay? Especially since it's image elements. Now, since we have it like so, we made it full width. We can make it a medium size if we want to. And we can further reduce the size of the image. Now, you see it. Now we reduce the size. The button have come up because the button can't. Let's try to drag this button inside this image. It can't. We can't drag it in. We can't do that. So image elements, you only use it when you don't want to add an element above it. Okay? But image on the background, you use it when you want to add an element above it. For instance, this one, we place the image element. We can wrap it with a div so we don't waste much time. We wrap it with a div, we select on the image element, we delete it. We select on that div, we give it a specific size. We want to do the same thing, we want to achieve the same thing, but in the other way. Let me show you the example of adding this. We want to pull this particular button into this particular section. So we are going to do that now. So we are going to go to sizing, and we are going to give it a width, a percentage. Let's give it a width of 30, and we give it a height of percentage. Let's give it a height of 20. Now let's add the image now. Go to advanced, go to background, go to browse, and we pop in our image. Now we have our image in the background. Let's just, the image is okay. Let's not even stress ourselves in arranging the image, because you can go here, set up here. I'm going to show you what to do. Okay, let me just show you at once. So as you can see, this image, it is blown up to the place. We can't see this main size of this particular image. When you drop in an image, these are things you need to do. Okay, these are the basic settings of an image you need to do. You see this image sizing. We can click on this. Background size should be on cover. Cover means you want everything to be, you want every part of that particular image to show in that section, no matter the size of that particular container. Okay? Contain means you want it to show as little as it could, even though it's going to duplicate it. We are going to talk about repeat after now. Manual means you want to actually size this thing the way you want. So if you click on manual, you need to now resize the image as you want, by typing in the height and the width from here. I hope you get the point. So we keep it on cover so that you can show all part of that image from left to right. That's number one. Background repeat, make sure your image is on no repeat. No repeat means if the image quality is too poor, it's not going to repeat. Usually, if your image quality is too poor, for it to enter and contain that particular size, it is going to repeat, like multiply the image so that it can cover that particular part, especially if you are using cover. But if you say no repeat, no matter the quality, it's going to blow it up, even though it's going to lose the quality. That's very important, okay? So cover, no repeat. Then go to background attachment pararex. If you keep it on fixed, which means when someone is scrolling on this website, the image will stay static, whereas the section will be moving. Now we keep it on scroll, where I'm going to still show you instances where that works perfectly well. We keep it on scroll. Scroll means you just follow the section and go wherever it is going. Background attachment parallel. Okay, we just talked about this. Now this is where you control the image area. We can say where the image is positioned. Maybe you want to shift part of the image to the left. We can give it a pixel from here. It's shifted to the left and so on. You can just play around with this thing. These things, they don't bite. These are just simple settings. Background clip, we can box, padding box, content box. These are not very necessary, okay? Background blend mode, also not necessary. Also, the gradient, also not necessary. I don't think you need any gradient for background. You are actually using an image for, because that's not going to work. So those are the basic things you need to know about the background, okay? So fine. Now we've actually created this. We can now drop in the button or whatever element into this particular div by just dragging it into it. As you can see, we have it. But we can't do that if we are actually placing this image, as you can see, as an element, like we drag in an element. So since we have dragged this particular stuff here, let's drag in an image element so we can see practically what the problem was before now. We want to plug in the image element in this div. Let's click on that div first. Don't click outside. Click on that div and we toss in the image element. You see it? We now have the image element inside of here. We can say move it to the top side and the bottom will go down. See what is happening? Because we constrained this particular section or this particular div to a particular size or height. That's why this image is going to blow up, except we come down to the width and we reduce it to whatever size we want, and it's going to adjust accordingly. I hope you get that point. I hope you get it very clearly. So that is how to add an image element, and these are basic styling you need to understand when you are creating an image element. Okay, so now we are going to clear this off. Let's create another container. You already know how to do this. We toss in our image element. Let's plug in our image element. Okay, now we are going to give it a width of 200. Now we add in our text element, heading text element, and we add in our body text element, and we can add in our button. Okay, so from here, let's just increase this to 400, and that's okay. On our text, we can go to typography. We are going to deal with typography in a little moment. Okay, the font size, let's give it a 33, which is still okay, and possibly we need to just readjust our text so everything can match up. Select the div guiding everything. We can center align everything if we want everything to go to the center, and make sure you space out the text a little bit from the button, usually, always. So also space out the button from the bottom part of the container. Select on the container and space it out a little. So this container, we can add a padding of 20 all around it. Let's add a pattern of 20 all around. Okay, then we can go to advanced and go to background. We can change this color to a little bit of gray like so. It's okay. Now we can switch our image. Now this is the instance I'm talking about. This is what very important part people don't understand. Many people, I see their websites, create a website, and I see them fall into problems like this. We are going to duplicate this. Let's select this section, and we want everything to be horizontally aligned. So click on horizontal so everything will align like so. Now look at what I want to point out very clearly. We have two containers. Actually, this is supposed to have a gap of 20, so we keep everything clean. So we have these two containers, and this particular image is of this size, and this particular image is of the same size. That is why you see all elements are perfectly aligned. But look at the problem we are going to face. We select on this image, we click on browse, and we are going to select another image of a different size. Let's look for an image of fine. Select an image of a different height, not that it's of a different memory or whatever. We select a different height. Look at what happens to the text we have here, or the content we have from here. You see it? Everything is now squished. This content have gone up and this one is down, and this is not responsive anymore. Look at this. This doesn't make any sense at all. This is what you should avoid at all costs. You get the point? Why you should avoid this is this can't even stack your elements and make your work responsive at all. So to avoid issues in the future, or to avoid issues with me, because if I see this after telling you this, I will not be happy with you. This is very, very important, and this is what separates professional designs from amateur designs, and I don't want to see it in your works. So whenever you want to make an image, make sure the images are the same height. If you want to cut an image, you can use Photoshop. We are going to come to course on that. Now, you see the height of this one. We are having a problem. Now, to solve the problem, what we need to do is to make sure that this particular image is of the same size with this particular image. Or we replace this image with an image of the same size. Like if we select the same image and pop it in, automatically we have the same height of image. As you can see, everything is now stacking properly. So don't say, this my text is like this and this other one is like this. If it is the same element, make sure, very importantly, make sure that the images are of the same height and the same width. Okay, that course is going to guide you on everything you need to know. So we added this image here and we have the background like so. We can add an image in the background, which is the section background by what? Going to advanced, and we can add a background image. Okay. If we click on this section and drop an image here, the problem we are going to face is that all these things we created now will go down and they won't make sense. But if we click on this section and click on background and we add image from here, everything is still going to stay as it is. We are not going to have any problem. You get a point? That is it. But if we click this section and say add an image element, the problem is that all the element is going to stack. You get it? If you don't get it,
forget about it.
So that's as simple. Why is stacking horizontally? Because we stack the section itself horizontally. If we make it vertical, you see the image is going to stack vertically. See how we push this element? We can't even see our elements again. Okay? Because the image itself is an element. It is not the background. But this one, we made the background. It allows our elements to shine. It allows elements to actually perform better. So that is the basic things you need to know about image. Other things you need to know is a little bit of styling. You can go to advanced, go over to effects. You can play around with all these effects you can see on hover and all of that, before and after and all of that effects. Just play around with whatever you know you think you want to actually play around with. There is no big deal in this. There is no big deal. Okay? This is just the basic things I want to teach you about image elements inside of Oxygen Builder. And this is a general course, a general lecture for web design. Actually, if you understand this, it won't be a problem for you building any layout with an image element. Though this is not a course on how to actually use image to make websites. This is a course on image elements and how to use it. That's two different things. I'll be bringing multiple layouts. We'll be building multiple layouts in the nearest future. Many layouts with image elements. So you are going to learn a lot in the future. But for now, this is basic things you need to do. When you look at a design and you want to use the image elements, use them with these guidelines, use them with these rules, use them with these principles, and you are not going to fall into any problem. Most importantly, again, if a div container have a border radius, possibly a border radius of 22, which is rounded, make sure, this is important, make sure the image element itself also have a border radius that supports it. Okay, 22 might not be perfect. Why? Because the image element's width is smaller than the width of the container. I'm going to talk about this when we talk about dynamics in ratios for dynamics for border ratios. I'm going to talk about that and why when you place a button, like for instance, if we select this button and we are giving it a border radius of 22, like we did to that one, it's not going to be the same thing like the width. As you can see, it is already turning to a circle. See from here, it's already turning to a circle, but from here, this is not a circle. This is just almost like a square, but still maintaining that particular. So for this one, we will give it a border radius of 11 to maintain the style, or 12 or 13 or 14. Let's say 15 is okay. You see, 15 now maintain the size style that we have from this particular age. Usually give a little more space at the bottom part. You can click option, copy style, click option and paste. Okay, fine. Now you see the area, it matches well because we actually use a size that is proportional for that particular element. That you use a border radius on a particular element doesn't mean you should use it the same border radius on the other element. So for this image element, we are going to reduce the border radius to match this particular one at the outer side. So the larger the element, the larger the border radius. The smaller the element, the smaller the border radius. We are going to a different topic now, but let's just read this since we are still talking about the image element. So we're going to reduce it. You see, there is no rules to this, and don't follow rules in design. Work out stuff just as it feels to you. Look at the design you are making. Stop following calculations. Sometimes calculations don't even work. And I'm going to show you instances where that's a problem. Where actual calculation, real life calculation don't even match up to actual calculated sizes. Okay? So I'm going to show you instances for that. But for now, understand what I'm trying to say. So we have a border radius of 15. 15 works perfectly fine. Now look at it now. Can't you see that the size border radius from over here is equal? It's assuming as if it's equal to the size we have from the outer one. Why? Because we use a border radius that is proportional to the element that is outside it. So those are the basic things you need to know about the image elements. Okay, so the rest of the things you can just play around, style things. You can change images. You know what to do from here. This is the sizes of the image. You can reduce the size from medium, thumbnail, but leave it at full. Leave all your image as full. Make sure you just optimize your image and leave it at full. And this is where you place the size of the image. You can increase the size or you can decrease the size of the image. Okay, here is where you play around with the size. You can further clear out the image to just leave it at whatever size it is. When you leave an image to whatever size you want, like so, let's clear this out. We are going to delete this. Now, we have the image cleared out. We don't have a size for the image. What you need to do now is to click option and we duplicate. Watch, as we are duplicating, the image size is reducing. We are going to still talk about this in the future. As you are duplicating, the image size is reducing. When we select on the section and we go over here, sizing and spacing, and we give it a width of, let's give it a width of, okay, let's give it a margin. Let's give it a padding width of 100 to the left and 100 to the right. Look how it affects the image. You see it? It's affecting the image. But once we delete one image now, it increases the size. This, I think you should use this. This particular image styling automatic works perfectly well, because when you come down to responsiveness, that's why you understand the importance of this and how easy it is to actually make your work responsive. But if you are using a specific size, it means that if we make this 300, this is the size it's going to be even if we delete everything from this website. I hope you get that particular part. Get that particular part very well. But whenever we clear out this, it will blow up everything. It's not blowing up everything. This is how it's supposed to be, which simply means you can't just place an image and a button in the center of the website. It just doesn't happen that way. Okay? You must have to have multiple elements to actually support each other, or have a text by the left, an image by the left, right, and to make things actual border perfectly well. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to give you more core values on this. So we talked about the full size. We have talked about that. The width, we have talked about that. Object fit is still the same thing we talked about. The cover, the content, the fill, the scale down, and so on and so forth. Okay, we talked about that when we are talking about the image element. Object position, center is perfect. Just make sure the image is in the middle. Okay, aspect ratio, initial, lazy load, just avoid this. We are going to talk about lazy load, but don't even use lazy load for now. It's not even necessary. So these are the basic things you need to know. Aesthetics, understanding the basic layouts. If you are using a border radius for a container, make sure the border radius affects the image and possibly it affects the button too. These are the parts that makes your work shine and makes your work look more matured and more custom made than others. So this is all we have for the image element. The rest of the lecture we are going to pull out for the image element will be when we are going to be building up our websites, creating stuffs and all of that. But for now, this is all you need to understand. This is simply all you need to know and understand about the image elements. See you in the next course.